Am I the asshole for calling my husband out on a lie he uses to avoid changing our newborn's nappies? Me and my husband have been together 6 years, married for 4 and have a 2-month-old baby girl. My husband has children from a previous marriage and years ago was a stay-at-home dad to them, so in general he's great with kids, but he seems to have forgotten a lot about the newborn stage and really just wants the toddler stage, where she will be more like a little person and developing a personality. He isn't great with interacting with her yet, but I know that will come easier him with time. I'm still on maternity leave and he is back at work full-time. His job is mainly talking on the phone all day with insurance people or people who have had a car accident recently, occasionally people buying cars they've brought in from accidents. Things are busy right now and he gets really tired, which I try to understand, but he seems to forget that having my daughter at home with me is also basically a full-time job and I need his help in the evening sometimes. We head up to bed at around 9 to 3, 9:45 in the evening. Previously I would follow him up with the baby, put her in the Moses basket, come back downstairs to set everything up that I would need in the night, turn off the TV, make myself a drink to take up before going back to change baby's nappy, give her a bottle before bed and then finally settle myself in. This would all while he sits in bed playing a quiz game he likes to play. Normally I will play with him for a while before falling asleep too. Recently I've started asking him to take up baby and change her while I get sorted. I'll then come up and give her a bottle before playing some game and going to sleep. This has only been the last 5 nights, and when I go up the last 3 he says her nappy is basically dry, which is strange because she would have had it on for a few hours and it should be wet. He just shrugged his shoulders and said maybe she doesn't need a change before bed. Completely ridiculous suggestion, as it's another 4 hours at least until she wakes up in the night, meaning she would have had 6–8 hours in the same nappy. Last night her nappy felt full and about 10 minutes before we went up to bed I checked and it had a big blue line and looked like a fairly full wet nappy, but when I went up he tried telling me again that it was basically dry and he didn't think that nappy change was necessary anymore. I called him out on it and told him that I had checked and he was just lying to get out of doing it, even at the expense of our newborn's comfort, and it could lead to nappy rash which could be painful for her. I told him it was a terrible thing to do and he should be able to change a nappy. He starts complaining that I'm checking up on him and that he's too tired to be sorting out the baby at night, as really that's my job, especially during the week when he has to go to work in the morning and I was taking away what little leisure him time gets all day. So am I the asshole to expect this from him every night when he wants some downtime before bed? Edit, update. I want to make a few things clear that have come up in the comments. Firstly, my baby has not gone to bed with a wet or dirty nappy any night. After I feed her I automatically check that she hasn't done a dirty nappy, as that can happen. Not a single night so far has she done a dirty nappy in the night. She's very considerate like that, but I check anyway. My husband had changed the wet nappy and put it in the bin, simply telling me it was basically dry. She was still changed, but he wanted to get out of doing it in future. It really wouldn't have caused any health issues, but it would have caused me more problems to get her to sleep, to have to change her after I feed her. She has relux, so has to stay upright for 10–20 minutes where she normally falls asleep. Changing her would wake her up again. Secondly, I'm in England and gave 90% paid maternity leave until February, when I plan to return to work full time. Even on this I earn more than my husband and pay the majority bills. We could survive, just about, on my salary, but we couldn't on his. Thirdly, having a baby has been an adjustment for both of us and he is generally very supportive. I still have to ask him to do things that I think should be obvious, but he's getting better. This is the only time a conversation about duties I expect hasn't been very productive. This could be because I reacted with anger rather than a calmer approach. Fourthly, I want really checking up on him. I was checking up on her. A dry nappy after a few hours could be dehydration, and even though she had shown no other signs it was a concern to me, so I checked simply to see if she was filling the nappy as she was supposed to. It never even crossed my mind he could be lying about it. I'm fully aware he was an asshole for lying about the state of her nappy just to get out of doing a simple care task nightly. I'm wondering if I reacted badly, or taking away his nightly routine and downtime is a crappy thing to ask of him when I could do it myself. Update again. Some more things that have come up in the comments. He has 3 children who all have very fond memories of him being a stay-at-home dad, but his ex-wife had a full year paid maternity leave, so both of them were home together, which each of them for a full year. This is why he remembers the newborn stage so differently. Yes, there is an age difference between me and my husband, but he wanted a baby from day one. I thought it was great when I fell pregnant, but I wouldn't have minded if it never happened for us. He never pressured me, but he really wanted another child. His ex-wife is a terrible person who cheated on him with a friend while he went through a major kidney failure and now abandons their kids at every opportunity she gets, so I won't be asking her for her opinion on my husband. We had a long talk last night about how I need him to be more involved, and he agreed to change the way we do certain things in a way to suit us both. He will be more active in the evenings, but I'm in charge of getting her ready for bed. He will get everything ready downstairs for me and then come up where he can just chill and decompress. Thank you for all the support and advice. I showed him all of the comments and he saw how bad he had been and really took everything on board. 100% not the asshole. Your husband needs to take responsibility for his child and do his share. You look after her all day and I'm sure he's more than capable of changing her nappy after work. We all have to do some form of chores after a long day at work. A nappy on a child is just one of those responsibilities. Looking after a crying baby can be just as tiring as a full-time job. NTA, if he can make a baby he can change a fucking diaper. It takes maybe 5 minutes and it's a caretaking thing that's extremely important. Edit. What about your free time? You've had the baby all day, the least he can do as a newborn father is change a damn diaper. Not the asshole. He lied to you and put your child at risk of developing a rash because he couldn't take a few minutes of his time to change her and then blamed you for checking up on him and had the audacity to say it's your job. F that dude, what a shitty father and husband. Don't cook his dinner or clean his clothes, and when he asks where his dinner and clean clothes are then you tell him that's not your job, it's his. Not the asshole. You guys better sit down and have serious talk about this. It will get more hands-on later. Downtime only comes when the baby's sleeping, napping. Sounds like he doesn't want to change diapers at all. It's not right for you to be the only one to wake up in the middle of the night to check on the baby. That's your job? Wow, I am sorry you have to deal with this. Yeah, sorry dad, it's just as much his job as yours. He needs to start picking up slack now. Seriously, you need to sit down with him as this cannot go on any further. He got his dick wet, he needs to put the work in. This was a two-person decision to bring a child into the world. He needs to do the work. Not the asshole. Also, I'm just sorry you have to deal with something like this. You deserve better. I love changing diapers, said 0 people ever. Not the asshole. He can be an adult and change a diaper as needed. For every diaper he doesn't change, that's one more you have to change. That's selfish AF. Not the asshole. Definitely. He chooses lying over a simple task or even asking you to do it, and when you confront him he still tries to blame you. This raises serious red flags. Not the asshole. He should probably face the fact that there isn't going to be much him time for a while, especially in the newborn phase. Also, I would have been livid at the "that's really your job" comment. Once he gets home it's a joint effort, not just yours. Mama, you deserve some help. You don't have to do it all. Am I the asshole for wanting my son to keep his original name? My son, 19, came out as trans a few years back, and for his entire transition my husband and I, 44, have been entirely supportive, so has his brother, 14. We've lent him thousands to pay for his transition, his new wardrobe, and changing legal documents to match his gender identity. We've also cut off and alienated a lot of friends and acquaintances due to their transphobia and other similar matters. So, suffice it to say, the idea that we're possible transphobic is ludicrous looking at the extent we've gone to support our son. But that hasn't stopped him from accusing us of being transphobic when we told him that we'd prefer that he keep the name we gave him. The reason behind us wanting him to keep the name we gave him was because we named him after a very close friend of ours who died when she was 20. She was someone who was very close to both of us. She was practically responsible for us getting together in the first place. So when he was born we wanted to honor her by giving our daughter her name. While his original name is feminine when you use it fully, when you shorten it it becomes a unisex name. For privacy reasons I won't say the name, but it's exactly the same as the name Samantha with Sam for short, which is a name that can be used for both boys and girls. All we've asked our son to do is to keep Sam as the name we call him but change the full name to Samuel since he doesn't want to keep his original name. But apparently he thinks that us asking him to do that is dead naming him and shows that we are transphobic. I can see where he is coming from in that we won't be changing how we are referring to him name-wise and that it is an attachment to his former female identity. But, still, we'd prefer him to stick with the name that honors a dear friend of ours. Obviously if he decides not to keep the name we're not going to disown him or anything, we'd just be disappointed. So, am I the asshole? Edit 1. I forgot to add a crucial note on that last line. I just want to reiterate, if my son does decide to change his name, we're not going to disown him. Edit 2. So it seems that I've left out some crucial stuff here that people keep bringing up, so I'll address it. The money that was used to pay for everything has only been lent because he wanted it to be a loan. He is determined to pay us back even though we don't really want him to. We plan on eventually rejecting the money if he tries to pay us back. Also, we didn't ask him to keep the name. He came to us with a selection of names to choose from and we said that we expected him to take on a masculine version of the name. Using the Samantha example, our suggestion was for him to call himself Samuel or Sam for short, not just Sam. Also, regarding the compromise of a middle name. We've already asked him to have it as a middle name and he's refused. He's adamant that he doesn't want a middle name. Edit. First, I want to thank everyone who's commented, and I'm sure more will comment in the next few hours. I've tried to read through all of them and I did try to reply with all of them as well. But 507 comments is a lot of comments to respond to, so I gave up in the end. Thanks for all of your perspectives, advice, experiences, and opinions, no matter how insulting, vile, and incredibly wrong some of them have been. I've taken them all to heart and I can see how this entire affair is a middle ground sort of thing where the position that my husband and I have taken can be seen as transphobic due to the connotations that it brings. We've since spoken to our son after reading this. We've made it clear to him that while we'd love for him to keep a masculine version of his name, that we'll support him in whatever name he chooses. Like many of you have suggested, we asked him to explain how his original name made him feel, and once he did, my husband and I understand entirely why he doesn't want to be known by it anymore. So we've apologized and taken another look at his list and pointed out the ones we like and think suit him. He's accepted our apology and he has also said that he understands our side in the whole affair. He's also said that he's happy because we seem to prefer the name that he most prefers out of the list. He's also told us that he's happy that we're not pressuring him to choose the name Ronaldo like his younger brother has been doing. But, again, thank you all for your comments. You're not transphobic in the least. However, you need to let go of this. It's his life and he deserves the opportunity to choose. No assholes here, but choosing a new name is a really big part of transitioning. You're NTA for feeling the way you do, but why WBTA if you don't just back down and let this go? I am gonna say a light, you're the asshole. Changing names is a huge part of transitioning for trans people. Leaving behind parts of them that were not at all who they are. I think asking him wasn't a problem, but once he said no, you drop it and leave it there. Let him change it. You are the asshole. I understand why you want him to keep the name because there's an emotional attachment. However, the emotional attachment is yours, not his. He has every right to change his own name to whatever he wants it to be. It's his name, not yours. Don't try to force this. He wants a proper masculine name, not a unisex one. Trans women here. I also had one of those types of names. And while Sam may be a perfectly acceptable name, it isn't me anymore. I'm not that person. I would love to adopt out my birth name. It's pretty badass. It just doesn't fit me anymore. Nah. Also, is he aware of the importance of the name to you? You are the asshole. Dead people don't care who shares their name. You care, because you want to honor this person. But why should your son honor a person you used to know when he doesn't want that name? In short, he shouldn't. He should name himself something he wants to be called. You are the asshole. Is there no other name way to remember your deceased friend? That your kid never knew? Other than forcing him to accept being dead named? Because you are putting your own needs before his. Am I the asshole for refusing to pay directly to my niece's grandmother for Disney? I.F. am the guardian of my niece N. 5F. N's maternal grandmother, M. reached out to me wanting to take N on a family vacation to Disney World Resorts for 4 days and 3 nights with the rest of the family. In total it would be N, M her partner, aunt and uncle, their partners and 3 kids, so 10 people total. She said it would be the first week of September and that the price for N would be $1,200, not including food and shopping. I was taken aback by the price, especially since this was so last minute, but figured since it's Disney that made sense. I asked for the itinerary so I could get an understanding of what I would need to pack for her to go. M was hesitant but gave it. What surprised me was, she marked off the prices for things and what it would cost each person. Now anyone who knows me, knows that I pay places directly and don't just give money. So I called M and asked her for information for the trip to pay the agency directly. She said, no, I could just give her the money. I told her that I was not comfortable with that. She then said that she wasn't comfortable giving me the account information. I said, well, can you give me the agent's information so I can give your name and pay her? I then asked her to call the agent and I could pay with her on the line. She again said no and I could just pay her. I told her I would think about it and call her back. I reached out to a friend who works at the same travel agency and gave her all the information to replicate the trip price. She quoted a trip like that would cost $500 for a child. Asked my friend if I could call the agent, give the name of the trip holder and pay. She said yes I could, but that's it. I called M back 2 days later and again asked her for the agent's name to pay the trip. She told me no and to send her the money. I put my foot down and said no. She then accused me of looking for a reason to keep N from her family. I said, absolutely not, and you're the one who sprung a last-minute trip on me for such a large amount which I am sure you planned months in advance and only invited N as a second thought. She got upset and said that N isn't invited anymore. I responded, such a great grandmother, and hung up. Well, M was all over social media accusing me of ruining their trip because I wouldn't send the money for N and keeping her from her grandchild. She then said that they had to push it back because they would need to come up with more money and disappointed the other kids are. So I commented, you reached out to me 2 weeks before the trip to invite N and wanted me to give you $1,200 up front, not including food and shopping, and I have only met you once. IDK anyone who would be comfortable with that. Am I the asshole? I feel I could be because they can't go and their kids are upset, but I feel like I was going to be paying for someone else's share for the trip. Also, some friends are saying that it can come off rude and accusatory. I didn't tell N about the trip. Edit. Thank you for the responses. Due to character limits, I would like to add some additional information. 1. N is aware of her mother's family. She used to get picked up by her aunt and uncle to hang with her cousins. Before being her guardian, I barely had contact with her. I met them a few times in passing at parties. 2. Due to some issues that I had with my stepbrother, I don't interact with him outside of holidays. 3. I only met M one time and that was at court to discuss guardianship. If the aunt and uncle wasn't going, I wouldn't be allowing N to go neither. 4. We are only 45 minutes away from them. I considered it because my BF's sister had passed away and we were already going to be in Florida for 2 weeks to help situate caregiving assistance for his parents. His sister was their caregiver. I thought it would be great for her instead of hanging out with sad people all day. Not the asshole. Your money and no means no. Not the asshole. I'm a travel agent and also a certified Disney travel professional. Unless they are staying at one of the most expensive properties, which seems doubtful since they claim to need your money to go, then that is a really high amount. As an agent, I have dealt with multiple credit cards to book Disney trips, family members sharing a room and splitting costs, and it is not a big deal. In the Disney Agent Payment Portal, there is the ability to use multiple cards. So, yeah, your spidey senses are right on. Something is amiss. And the fact that she uninvited her is awful. NTA. She was obviously looking for you to subsidize the trip for everyone else. Your niece would likely have been lowest priority on the trip and may not even have had a good time. Plenty of opportunities for niece to gang out with the fam locally if they really want to get to know her. She didn't have enough money. That's the only reason she invited N to get what she wanted, more money. Not the asshole. I'm glad you commented on her post. Open mouth smile. Not the asshole. Also, I'm confused. M wants to take N to Disney but you have to pay? Yeah, that's not how taking someone in vacation works. It sounds like they want to go to Disney and are trying to get you to pay or them too. Not the asshole. Granny seems like an entitled brat. If you want to pay $1,200 for a Disney vacation, just take the child and make the memories yourself. Granny also seems shady. I don't think I would be sending the child on any multiple-day trips with her unless it is court-ordered. Not the asshole. Heck yeah, it's accusatory. It smells 100% like a scam. Because it likely is. I bet if you talk to your friend, Granny's price is $700. Your money would pay for your child and her. And that's why she's calling the whole thing off. She doesn't want to pay any money out of her own pocket. She's probably overchanging the other parents to cover her food etc. as well. And why just niece and not both of you? Given that it sounds like other parents will be there. Why doesn't she want the child's guardian there? And is there a reason you, and not she, is the guardian in the first place? Smells like perhaps she is planning to pay for the other kids' food etc. and doesn't want you there to ask questions about whether the money came from their parents and she's just holding it etc. Not the asshole, she was using you to offset the cost of the trip so she didn't have to pay as much. To ask for $1,200 and then extra on top of it? 2 weeks out? Someone's short on money and scheming. Am I the asshole for not watching my brother's dog, nor looking for it when it got lost? Okay, so I, M35, have a strained relationship with my brother, M38. The most important thing in my brother's world is his dog, George. George isn't terrible, but he is really hyperactive and very poorly trained. Not violent, but always knocking into things, jumping on stuff, etc. If let indoors, he always breaks things. My brother also has quite the entitled streak and treats my parents as if they are his personal valets and servants. He actually lives across the street from them. He doesn't usually ask me for much because we really don't get along, since he used to treat me terribly as a kid and has no interest in me as an adult unless he sees an opportunity for a jibe or put down. Anyway, last week my parents were traveling, so his usual servants were not available. He calls me and tells me that he has a last-minute business trip to a city that is about a 3-hour flight away and he needs me to watch George. I tell him no, that I'm at my GF's place, which isn't far, but she just moved and I'm helping her set up, and that I have other plans that weekend. He texts me that the family never asks me for anything, which is true, but I never ask them for anything either, and that I can help out. This goes back and forth for a bit and then I don't hear anything for about an hour and a half. He texts me, "Hey, they just closed the doors to the plane. I left George in your yard and closed the fence. He usually eats around 7. Going to lose reception soon. Thanks." I texted him back, "You'd better find someone else to come get him before your cell service runs out. I told you I'm not doing it. You really painted yourself into a corner on this one, genius." Then I hear nothing until several hours later. My bro calling my phone frantically asking if I took George in. I told him no, just like I told him I would not. Plus at this point, I had more than a few drinks in me and wasn't good to drive even if I were so inclined. Then he got really pissed, saying that he sent a friend over to my house just then, because he didn't get my text until he landed, and George wasn't there. So, he started screaming and cursing at me. So I hung up. He called back a few minutes later, containing himself, although straining at it, telling me that I had to go, meet up with his friend and look for George. I told him that no, I did not, and wasn't good to drive. He was telling me to take an Uber and that I had to clean up the mess I made. I corrected him and told him it was the mess he made and that no, I didn't have to. He started screaming and cursing again, so I turned my phone off until the next afternoon. Long and short of it, my brother and I agreed to part ways, which was probably long overdue. So, am I the asshole? Edit. People are asking why I didn't look. Aside from the fact I wasn't good to drive and had other commitments, my house borders a major nature preserve in Brazil. It has a lot of dangerous animals. Highly venomous snakes, crocodiles, piranha, electric eel and even some jaguars have been seen walking close to town. It is so bad that if a criminal runs into the forest at night, not even the police will go in to look for them. So searching the forest is extremely dangerous at night and even a bad idea during the day. Not the asshole, what a horrible human to dump his dog in someone's yard like it's an inanimate object. I hope George is okay. He deserves a better human. I just feel sad for George, pleading face. Not the asshole. You told your brother you were not willing to take care of the dog and you were perfectly justified in doing so. Your brother is definitely the asshole in trying to foist the dog on you in spite of your refusal. Don't know what's with people in the comments, not the asshole. Yes, the dog might be the victim of this whole mess, but Oppa's not responsible for it. Your brother should have thought it 2 times before leaving his animal at OP's place when he had already stated he did not want to have anything to do with it. If the dog got lost, blame it on his poor owner education, not on the person which had already said he couldn't literally take care of it. You get what you give, and if your dog is not behaved, learn that goddamn lesson now. I'm going with not the asshole. The dog isn't at fault, but if your brother cared so much about him he'd have worked something out before the last possible second. I gotta say, if you'd taken the dog in, that would have made your brother believe he could pull this shit on you over and over again for the rest of forever. It sucks that the dog got out, but he was never your responsibility. Not the asshole, you weren't even at the house, and he tried to force you into doing something when you already had plans. I almost agree with the everyone sucks here judgment, but it's his dog and he should know if it is capable of escaping a fenced-in yard. Feel bad for the pup though, hopefully was found safe. Not the asshole. But your brother is the asshole. He heard you say no but refused to listen. It's his own fault, not yours. Not the asshole. He shouldn't have a pet.